Did you know that you can actually write off a tree that you lost on your taxes? I know, crazy, right? Sounds completely made up. However, it's actually real. And if your property was hit by a federally declared national disaster and you lost trees on your property, the IRS actually allows you to claim those values of trees lost as a casualty loss deduction. There's a catch though. You gotta have a proper tree appraisal. And that's where a guy like me comes in. Now, first of all, my name's Matt Latham, and I am a board-certified master arborist with the International Society of Arboriculture, and I'm an ASCA registered consulting arborist. And just so you know, there's only about 100 to 120 guys that hold both those credentials. But the reality is I've spent years helping folks just like you take care of their trees. But today, we're talking about how to financially recover when disaster strikes, specifically regarding your trees. Because when trees come down in a hurricane or a fire or you lose them in a flood, most homeowners, they just eat the loss. But quite frankly, you don't have to. And here's the thing, this deduction is actually hidden in plain sight and it's backed by real IRS code. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, obviously. I'm a tree nut, but I think I can opine a little bit on the tree side. So let's dig in. Now, here's the deal. Comes straight from the tax code. And again, I'm not a tax guy, I'm not a financial planner, I'm just a tree nut who loves trees. And fortunately, I have a brain which allows me to look this stuff up, and I'm working with a few clients on this currently. And the tax code is IRC crazy squiggly line number 165. In section A, it says that you can deduct losses to a property that aren't covered by insurance. Now, section C3 of that same code says it adds that personal property, including trees, qualify if the damage is from sudden, unexpected, or unusual events. Think hurricanes, fire, flood, ice storms, things like that. Now, then we have IRC squiggly crazy sign 165H, which actually imposes two limits. That, first of all, it has to be more than $100 per casualty event, and the losses have to exceed 10% of your adjusted gross income. But there's a very big exception. Now the exception that we're talking about is the disaster exception. Now, thanks to changes in the law for the tax years 2018 through 2025, if your loss happened in a federally declared disaster, those thresholds actually shift. The $100 rule becomes $500 per event, and you can skip the 10% AGI limitation entirely on what's called a qualified disaster loss. That means that if you have a massive live oak in your front yard due to Hurricane Beryl or another one like that, and that tree was worth, let's say, $10,000, $20,000, you might actually be able to deduct the entire amount. And here's what you'll need to claim it. See, the IRS won't accept a guess, and you can't say, oh yeah, that tree was probably worth a lot. What you're gonna need is actually a real, true written appraisal by a guy like me, a report that follows ANSI A300 standards, and an actual valuation on the tree using current Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers methodology. I personally use the Tree and Landscape Appraisal Guide, 10th edition revised. Now, this is about 22 years after the 9th edition. And I do see some guys in my industry that are using the 9th edition, even though it's 22 years old, and that's not the industry standard anymore. So it's important you use the right methodology and the right sources. You're also going to need great site data. You're going to need some photos and a justification for the valuation. Oh, and you'll need to file it using IRS Form 4684. Now, when you hire a guy like me or me for a tree appraisal, I give you everything you need. A formal report valued according to the current standards, photos, diameter, species, conditions, and contributions to your property. Now, some of that I might need your help on. Of course, a defendable documentation that your CPA can use, and a review of your FEMA disaster declaration status. That way you know it qualifies. Now, quite frankly, your appraisal might be $1,000 or $1,500 for a properly drawn up appraisal report. But let's be real. If your tree was worth more than that, and if it caused damage to your home, it probably was. This could actually pay for itself and then some come tax time. Now, let me give you a real world appraisal that I'm working on currently. We just did an appraisal for a homeowner in Houston who lost 3 giant pines and a pecan tree in Hurricane Beryl. All 4 were mature, structurally sound, and added shade and curb appeal. And the total loss, get this, came out to around $86,000 in appraised value. Now, their CPA is currently applying that towards their federal tax return. That's a big deal, folks. So here's what it really comes down to, though. If your tree came down in a storm, don't just haul it off and forget about it. Document, value it, get a plethora of pictures, and make sure to deduct it. And hit us up on the web at arborist.com to schedule your appraisal consultation today, and we'll make sure your report is done right. So if the IRS ever comes knocking, you've got solid roots backing you up. Thanks for watching, and follow for more great tree tips.